Hello, my name is Eddie Block. I'm a video editor, producer, director, filmmaker, whatever you want to call me. And I just wanted to talk to you about why we need to stand up for California. Last Friday, I was at the May Day, and I was excited to see how many people stood up and how many people went to other cities as well and said, we need to work. I was devastated by how we were treated by the CHP, watching my friends get arrested, pulled from my arms, others pulled from their loved ones' arms. That wasn't right. But you know what? We need to go bigger. There's almost 40 million Americans that live in California. We need to stand up and fight. I have a great reason I'm going to show you right now. This is why I'm going to stand up and fight. This is my dad. He served 21 years in the United States Air Force during the Vietnam War. He was exposed to Agent Orange. I was exposed to Agent Orange through him. My dad died from Agent Orange. I was born with 8 disabilities because of his Agent Orange. This is all I got left of him. Some photos and his medals. But when my mom died of cancer a few years back on her deathbed, or the day before, she made me promise I would never stop fighting for what I deserved. For my dad dying and me being disabled from his service. So I'm going to ask you to help me stand up. Stand up for your parents, your grandparents, anybody that was in the military, anybody that fought for our country. Because they fought. Some died. Some came back with PTSD. Some came back with a blown off arm or leg. What can you tell that person who lost their arm and let's say they can't even walk, they have no limbs whatsoever because they wanted to live in a free country, and you let that jerk off up there in the Capitol in Sacramento treat us like we got to do whatever the heck he says? We don't. I'm sorry to say, but there's a war here in America, and we're fighting the politicians. And not all of them. It's just those darn Democrats like Gavin Newsom, who sits in his rich house that he's never worked a day in his life with green lawns and his swimming pool, tennis court that we pay for. We pay for that junk. So stand up. Now, this is the first documentary I ever made. When you hear him say Hendrik, that's my first name. Like I said, I'm part Dutch, so Hendrik is my first name. But I go by Eddie Block, which is my middle name. So I appreciate if you'd watch my very first documentary and then tell me after you've seen that and seen what happened to my sister, my brother, and I, my friend Carlos's dad and his family. My stepdad is in this video as well. And you cannot tell me that you won't stand up for our rights after watching this. So enjoy my first documentary. It was my first film school class, so don't get all judgy. It was my first documentary ever. But it means the world to me if you'd watch this and share it. Stand up, America. I remember it as if it just happened yesterday. It was Saturday, June 30th, 1984. And that was the day Agent Orange took my dad from me.
You know, I was a real good friend of Hendrik's dad. He was in the Air Force, I was in the Air Force. And we spoke about the Air Force periodically. He knew that I was medically discharged from the Air Force when I got hurt and stuff like that. I think Hendrik's dad thought that Hendrik's disability came from his time when he had Agent Orange, when he was around Agent Orange. He never completely came out and said that, but it was just a feeling that he sort of nourished a little bit, you know.
At the airport, we'd be dropping off soldiers for detail, and they'd be loading up barrels. You know, they'd have these barrels and then pump it with a pump, 55 barrel drums, and they'd pump it onto a helicopter that had spray wings on the side, and they'd go out and spray. And nobody had no gloves and nothing. It was just, hey, we didn't know.
Well, it would be nice if the government owned up to the fact that Agent Orange caused a lot of problems. You know, it's going to come out eventually, so suck it up, deal with it, and admit that it was a problem and move forward and help everybody move forward from it instead of making them fight for every scrap, for every last penny or whatever to help them have a quality of life. I mean, you know, you're 41 and you've had to fight for every last thing you've gotten, and nobody's owned up to the fact that, oh, gee, maybe, you know, our own government did this to our own military people, and maybe we ought to at least kind of try and support the families that are going through this.
You know, I think about the American children of the airmen who were involved with Agent Orange, who loaded it in planes or sprayed it and whatever, okay? I think that's tragic. But there's also the other side of that is tragic too, is how many people in Vietnam were affected by Agent Orange. I think Agent Orange was a big mistake. I understood what the military was trying to do at the time to take down the growth so that the soldiers could go in there and do a better job of finding the Viet Cong. But you know, both sides hurt from that. I can only imagine how many kids are affected by it that we don't even know about because of the soldiers that had to go through those fields and jungles after they sprayed. It's tragic. It's really tragic.
I think the disability as a family was pretty, it was challenging. You know, Mom and Dad put a lot of focus on, obviously, your health, which is necessary. And not that they pushed us to the side, but we kind of became secondary in the fact that they spent a lot of time, you know, first 2 years, LA Children's Hospital, Travis Air Force Base. We were at family friend's house a lot, which was fine. You know, it just made for a very challenging family unit. You've been fighting this since 1996, yeah. Welcome to government, number one. And like I said, number two, you get enough people going forward. Eventually, it's gonna pay off. And again, no money's ever gonna pay for the colostomies, the back surgeries, all the issues that there are. You know, and you just have to remember that this can't be taken away from you.
The Saturday was different. My dad walked in. He had a heart attack a few months earlier. And so he walked in out of breath, and he walked over to the cabinet and got his heart pills. Then he walked over to the dining room table, I think, to grab his coffee. And all I remember is hearing him fall and hit the coffee table and my sister scream. And I looked over and just seen him on the floor. So I crawled while I was screaming all the way to the back to get my mom. And my mom comes running out, and they start working on my dad, trying to give him CPR. And they're doing the compressions, and I hear somebody yell, he swallowed his tongue, and I just remember my mom yelling at him, saying, "Don't you die. Don't you dare die, you son of a bitch." And I know she wasn't saying it in a bad way. That's not what she was saying. She was just in the heat of the emotion, the heat of the moment, saying, don't you die. But he did. We're right there in front of my sister, my mom, and I. I was only 6 years old. And that was the day Agent Orange took my dad from me and my mom, my sister, and my brother.